Great. Welcome to Life at 40. The podcast we're going to chat about is men turning that wonderful age of 40 and how we learn to live with life and some of the silly trials and tribulations that life throws at us and how we deal with it. For the people listening, a little introduction. Obviously, we've known each other how many years?
Nearly 20.
Nearly 20 years, and our lives, for much part, have been in tandem, one would say.
Scarily so at points.
First question, how did you feel about turning 40?
Turning 40 as an age, I didn't really overthink. And I felt the same with 30 also. 30 was a bit more of a landmark birthday for me because I'd met my wife at 29, was engaged just before 30 and then had my first son at 30. So 30 was far more of a landmark in my life. 40 kind of came and went, but we was mid-COVID, mid-pandemic. So the world was in a funny place too.
Well, you were 40, it was fun, it was on a boat.
We wasn't a
It
boat.
definitely had its ups and downs.
But even in the month that we had the boat party, there was talk of shutdowns and all of the like.
I mean, for me, it was, I'm still the same, I'm still 30, still the same person, nothing's really changed.
Yeah, like I say, 30, I had big life events happening around the age of 30. So definitely felt a change around 30, coming out of my 20s into my 30s. Going from 30s into 40s, less so. But definitely as time has gone on, I'm far more comfortable with who I am and my outlook on things as I'm getting older.
So no silly life crisis, like midlife crisis. Arguably, my idea to do this was probably led by a midlife crisis for me.
Mm-hmm.
The realisation that, well, as we briefly spoke about before, the classic one was a stag do. My stag do.
Mm-hmm.
Quite fun to do it, but suddenly realising I'm not as young as I probably once was.
Well, certainly on your stag, I think I was I already 40? I was either not far off or just
September, wasn't it? So it was just before.
A couple of months later. But obviously the Friday night, which was the big nightclub night.
Yeah.
It was very clear very quickly that we were different to everyone else within the building.
I think we were probably 15 years older than anyone else in there, easily.
Yeah, comfortably.
And
treat but treated as such. I behaved far worse, far younger, and not been thrown out, and was definitely viewed.
I was having a little snooze and got thrown out.
Sure, but you was having a snooze because you maybe enjoyed yourself a bit too much before getting in.
It had been a good time. Do you feel men are notorious for hiding things?
I'm the world's worst.
Suck it up, just deal with it.
I'm the world's worst for that. My obviously I was part of a single parent family growing up largely. My dad left when I was 7 or 8. So my mum largely raised us, but she too was a bit of a damaged soul, shall we say. So took on a lot of responsibility from quite a young age.
But didn't open up, tried to show the strong face, tried to be...
She always tried to be mum and dad in the house.
Try and hide her
So
real
probably-
emotions when she's angry, sort of thing.
Unknowingly took on a lot of her traits, and she was very much a closed shell. She had her own issues with her growing up and her parents, so would shell up, would not really talk, wouldn't share things. My sister is a bit more open. She obviously now works in mental health.
I remember the first time I met your sister, so
Yeah,
she pretty much sat there, light in my face, clipboard out.
yeah. So by design, she's a bit more open naturally, but
I can relate to that. I mean, my biggest issue is that I will bottle things up a little bit. I'll like, okay, I'll let that slide. That's annoying me, but I'll let that slide. And I'll explode at something ridiculously little. And then shut off again and then make it 10 times worse by... I've gone 2 days before now and not said a word to Zara, who's actually, for me, been trying to open up with more now. And it's actually a good soundboard and I've got better. And by no means am I perfect. I'm still terrible.
believe everyone has so much going on in their own lives.
Do they need to be burdened by your own?
Yeah, not really. And as I've got older, the circle that I have around me has got smaller and smaller and smaller. So certainly there are friends that have come and gone, people that were best friends or very close to me that I've now not spoke to or seen for years and years. Again, not by design really, but people are busy, or I'm sure if you bumped into everyone would be civil. There's never been a fallout.
Oh, no.
But the inner circle that I have around me is very, very small.
So in the age you do, you slowly learn who you need around you and who you put the effort in and actually will, even if it is 4 months so, but you know, I'll see you in 4 months and we'll pick up from where we were last time and it'll be fine. You'll have a good laugh. That's fine, but you find people you're not too fussed about, you won't even bother. Gone from both being the horrible phrase of part-time dads, but we were doing crazy hours, seeing the kick range, we know we've got the girls this weekend, we'd do things together and that, because that's how we'd work. And then suddenly, everything's dropped. Your daughter needs you take them on and you have to just go with it. I don't know if I could have done that in the 20s.
No, possibly not. Obviously, my situation was slightly different to yours in that I didn't know about Lucy at birth. And so I was 24 and then found out about her in an incident when she was already 18 months.
I do remember the conversation.
Yeah. When you talk about landmark events in your life, rather than it being, well, I've turned 40, I think differently now, I turned 30. 24, obviously found out at Lucy, I had my car accident.
Yeah.
And without consciously making any decisions on my lifestyle or how I wanted to be different, those two things are probably the two single biggest impacts on my life. Both happened within 3 months of each other, ironically. Having no child to then a nearly 2-year-old toddler. Then also the car accident where obviously
that's all
you saw, which you saw almost firsthand.
Yeah.
Altered my perspective and my approach
Well,
to everything
I'd
really.
say actually for the car accident, we probably wouldn't. I think that it's definitely that 6-month period after that is where we really made friends. Man, I had not much sleep during that period, and we were gaming until 7 o'clock in the morning.
And you find solace and comfort in silly things. It just so happened that was
What worked?
what happened. But at 24, I definitely went from being, I would say probably, I was quite immature and young. But then after 24, almost grew up instantaneously. And even in my work and profession and my job career, naturally carried myself a bit differently. Was then a dad too, so had extra responsibilities. So 24 was when I would say I probably started to become a man.
What would you tell your 20-year-old self now, thinking of what you know now?
I mean, Finley is 11 in a few weeks, but is fast becoming a young man. And so I've had similar conversations with him already.
I've had a conversation very similarly about that. Yeah.
And I mean, look, clearly there are repercussions from certain actions.
Yeah.
And use a bit more foresight probably, and act a bit more responsibly, because as much as you should live in the moment and live for the now, some decisions do shape your life
Completely.
like forevermore. I mean, 20-year-old me would never have listened to 40-year-old me saying now, act more responsibly, take more caution.
Pensions. What's that? Don't worry about them.
All of that, and actually my father-in-law Ray, he's 72. His biggest bit of advice to me is pension. Plan for your future, plan for what's to come.
It's the sort of now is when we're looking at this, when really we should have done it
Probably
20 years ago.
Probably already too late to give yourself
A proper nest egg.
probably. But it's easy to say 40-year-old me would talking to 20-year-old me would say, be more responsible, think about your future, think about when you're retired, think about what you're doing with this girl because the repercussions could be this. 20-year-old me wouldn't have listened.
No.
So my advice is probably irrelevant.
It would have been, listen, you know, in the sex education class you had back at school, pay attention to it because the repercussions are real. It's not just STDs.
Yeah, but I mean, even now as a more mature adult or 40-year-old, people that say X, Y, or Z, you always think, oh, it never happened to me. Vicky with a cancer, Lucy being 18 months, and people being in similar situations.
Yeah.
I would always look on them and think, oh, no, that would never be me. And even now at 40, I always think, oh, that would never be me. Just all my health scares recently, the same thing. Oh, that would never be me. Until it's reality and it's on.
It is me.
It can be very, very easily, and have been through and seen a lot of that sort of stuff now, and always just thought I was going to have a very black and white life.
Average
really.
Joe life.
Yeah.
I'm just nothing's going to happen
No,
to me.
the picture that's been painted of my life is very, very different and way more colourful than I ever have done. Finley struggles. So back to the whole wisdom thing where we started. Find myself increasingly talking to Finley from like a father-son perspective, trying to pass on wisdom, things that he might want to take on board somewhat. Just recently, he struggles with two boys in his class in particular, and he's quite negative in the way that he views things and he approaches things. I am and always have been really a big believer in positive mindset.
You're always been generally a positive one.
Approaching things positively, thinking about if you think good things will happen, and that's probably, if I had a mantra, that is the one I would probably subscribe to the most and try to believe in the most. That if you think
half
positive,
full, not half empty.
yeah, if you think positively, positive things happen. Always try to see the good in things. Sometimes that's harder than others, but I believe that. And I've said that to Finley and can see he's taking things on board. Me and Finley have a very different relationship to what I ever have with either of my parents. And he does take things on board, and he does put that into his everyday life within the last week since we've had the chat.
Oh, to be of any degree, the boys are both, obviously I haven't seen them for a couple of months, but I see that they're spitting images of you in many ways, and their mannerisms and that is you all over, so you've done a good job there.
I mean, Finley has my interests and my personality. George, unfortunately, has my immaturity and my sense of humour.
Yes, and why is the immaturity there? As all our kids can play, we all do annoying things to embarrass them.
But then, contrastly, they both definitely have traits of Vicky's also. Vicky obviously has struggled academically with her dyslexia and everything. George has picked up that trait.
Thankfully, George is at the point now where it's not as big a problem as it once was, and there will be support for him and he can push through it.
That's good.
I've done all right with dyslexia.
You have?
Don't say the word.
Got your own podcast now.
Well, thank you for coming and doing this.
Thanks for having me.
It's been fun. You got a thumbs up for that one, Soph, as well? Who dropped it? Was it you? Did you drop something?